input and output values with a formula or equation. For our output value, we will be given a value of x, so a value for our independent variable, and we'll put that into the formula and calculate the value of y, our dependent variable. For our input value, we will be given the value of y, so we'll be given that dependent variable. Remember that y is equal to f of x, so whatever value they give us for y, we'll either plug that in for y or we'll put that in for f of x, and then we'll go and solve for our x. Our equation here is f of x is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. We'll start by finding f of 0. So they're asking us to find an output value. So our x is 0, and we'll plug that into our formula and get our y value. So I have 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8. And when I simplify that, that turns out to just be equal to minus 8. Letter B says find f of 3, so another output value, and C says find f of a, so also an output value. Go ahead and pause the video and give those two a try. All right, so f of 3, everywhere we see an x, we'll replace it with 3. So I get 3 squared minus 2 times 3 minus 8. That's 9 minus 6 minus 8, and that gives us negative 5. And then letter C, find f of a. So everywhere there's an x, we're going to replace that with a. We get a squared minus 2a minus 8. There's really not anything we can do to clean that up, so we'll just leave that as is. Letter D, solve f of x is equal to 0. So here they've given us a value for y, and they're asking us for that input value. This isn't a linear function, it is quadratic, and in chapter 3 we'll look at quadratics quite a bit more, but let's do a quick refresher on how to solve that, and then just know in chapter 3 we'll go into it in a little more depth. So f of x equal to 0 means we're looking at x squared minus 2x minus 8 equal to 0. There's two primary ways of doing that. There's probably a couple others, but the first one is factoring. And the way that factoring works is it's based on this idea if you multiply two things together like a times b, and if you know that it's equal to 0, then either a is 0, b is 0, or they're both 0. Right? If you multiply two things, the only way you can get 0 is if at least one of them is 0. So suppose that function factored to something like x plus 1 times x plus 3 is 0. We would take x plus 1, set it equal to 0, and solve, and then do the same thing with x plus 3. So let's try this out with the function we have. We have x squared minus 2x minus 8. So because this is just a single x squared up front, I know that this is going to be x plus or minus something for both of these. And then I look at my last term, this minus 8, and I need two numbers that multiply to make 8. So maybe like 2 and 4. And then the last thing I need to do is to find the signs that go in here. So I look at this, and I see that there is a minus sign here and a minus here. So I know I have one of each sign, and I need the bigger one to be negative because I do need this to add out to a negative number. So it gives me x plus 2 times x minus 4 equals 0. If you have another way of factoring, that's totally fine, however it is that you can get there. This gives us x plus 2 equals 0, so x is negative 2, or x minus 4 is 0, so x is equal to 4. Right, that's one way of solving it. Another way that will always get you there is that quadratic formula. And then the biggest thing is just making sure on both of these that they are equal to 0. And then we need to identify a, b, and c. So a is the number with the x squared term. So our a is a positive 1, and our b is a negative 2, and then our c is a negative 8. And if I fill this into the quadratic formula, I get the negative of negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8, all divided by 2 times 1. So that'll be 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 32 over 2, which gives me 2 plus or minus square root 36 over 2. And 36 is a perfect square, so that makes that nice for us to solve. So I get 2 plus or minus 6 over 2. So this will give me two answers. I either have 2 plus 6 over 2, or I have 2 minus 6 over 2. So this will be 8 over 2, which is 4. And this will be negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So the same answers that we got when we did this by factoring. So either way, we'll get you there.